Hello, everyone. So I was just going to show you a couple things that I usually do in Blackboard with my class for CompLit. So when you first log in to your Course Sites account, if you set one up, you would see your new course. So there's my new course right here. I'm going to click on that to get into my course. And again, I usually when I import a course from one of those packages, like that zip file that I uploaded, I have to wait a while before it all shows up. So usually I log off and come back like 5-10 minutes later and everything's done. So when you first log in, this is what it looks like. It automatically puts a bunch of stuff in here that, I never need a lot of this stuff. For CompLit, I'm not using discussion boards online, although you could, but I usually take them out because I'm not using them. I take out groups, I remove tools, I take out all the stuff that's going to distract the student. I try to make it really simple so that only what they need is there. So if you just click next to it, this little drop-down thing, and click delete, and then delete content, and that's it. And that'll delete the ones you don't need. So they're all removed now, so I've kind of whittled this down to a shorter list. It's a lot simpler now for the students when they log in. They don't have to wade through a long list of things. So the next thing is, what I have in the shell is there's a section here for chapter quizzes. So I basically imported all the quizzes for the chapters. And if you wanted to look at it, you could either click on it and you can kind of just do a test. You can take the little quiz yourself. And again, this is just from the stuff from the book. I do the ones that are in the book. That way the students can look at it in the book and answer it in the book. And then they come in and just kind of transcribe it online, some of them. And some of them just do the whole thing online. But either way, I do the study guides that are from the book, just as if I assigned, the work from the book itself. If you wanted to change those quizzes, you would just click the little drop down over here and you can click on edit the test, and that would let you change the content of the test. So you could add additional questions and you can remove some of these questions. You can change the number of points per question, so you can change the point spread. You can do them a whole bunch at the same time. So I could say select all the true false and then give it a new point value for all the true false at the same time. So you're not going through and updating them all one at a time. You can also change the test options too, which you might want to do. So for example, if I click on chapter 1, I can go to edit test options, and you can see here link is available. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll hide all the tests until after it's time for them to do it. That way they don't see a list of 14 quizzes that they have to take when they first log in. They only see 1 or 2, and then they see 3, and then 4, and then 5, and so forth and so on. I always give them unlimited attempts, but you could change that. You could just give them maybe 1 or 2 attempts if you like, and I just let it take the highest grade. So I tell the students you can take it as many times as you want, and it'll always take the highest grade. And of course, very few of them actually take me up on that offer. Most of them just do it once or twice. And I do set the timer since I give them multiple attempts. And sometimes what I've debated doing is taking the timer off and just giving them 1 attempt so they can take as long as they want. But I prefer to give them a bunch of attempts, let them fail once or twice, especially because a lot of them have never used an online course before and they're getting used to doing this. And down here, this sets what they see after they take the test. So as you can see, I'm just showing them everything so they can see all their answers, the correct answers, the submitted answers. That way they can see what the right answers were, and then they can go back and take it again and use it as a study guide. And again, that's really my purpose for these little quizzes, is so they can use it as a study guide. And that's it. So that's the test. So I have chapter quizzes, one for all the chapters that I use. I think I skipped one of the chapters. I can't remember which one. And then I've got tests in here. These are the tests that I use. I made these up. Obviously, you would probably use your own tests in here, but you're more than welcome to take a look at the ones that I use. But you would delete these, maybe change them. My tests all have passwords. That way the students can't take it until they get to class. So when they show up at class, I give them the password for the test, and then they can, take the test. And to set the password, that's again one of the things that's in the test options. So you'll find the test password in here. So, and again, I do that so they can't take it at home. So they have to come in, and they have to be, in the classroom and all that stuff. Otherwise, some student would probably try to do it somewhere else and all that stuff. And then as far as the assignments go, I have all the assignments in here. So these first 2 are the multiple choice from the first Microsoft Office book or the Microsoft Windows book, the larger spiral-bound lab book. And then these are the assignments, for example, for Word. I have 4 Word assignments that I give them. Then I have 4 Excel assignments and then a couple of Access assignments. So when they come into class and we're ready to do these assignments, the students know they can go in here and they download these 2 documents. So I put all the documents here so they can get it from here instead of having to try to get it from the textbook link. And then I just tell them what page it is. So I'd say go to the instructions on page 185 of your workbook, and they know that these are the files. And I usually do these with them in class. What I do is I go through the assignment in class. So most of them see it done once, and then they go off and do it on their own. So that's the quizzes. And I have some extra credits in here, but the attendance thing is a little different. So what I do is each week when I come into class, I go into attendance and I create a new assignment. So I go to assignments and then I create assignment and then I give it a name. So for example, if this were today, the assignment would be 320 and the max number of points is going to be 1. So now I have an assignment worth 1 point. That's today's date, but the students won't see this assignment because it's not shown. You can see there's a little symbol next to attendance that's hiding that assignment or hiding that tab rather. So, and I could show it if I wanted to, but I like to leave that hidden because that's for me. And then when I'm ready to take attendance, I go to the grade center and then the full grade center. And if I had attendees in my class, then this would, of course, have a whole bunch of names going down the side. And if I scroll over, there's 320. And what I do is each little cell block in this grid, I put a 1 if they're present, and I put a 0 if they're not there. And you can use the arrow keys to navigate down. So I do 1 down, 1 down, 1 down, 0 down if they're not there. That way, this keeps track of my attendance. The other neat thing about the Grade Center, and right now it's set up for all of my assignments and tests, but obviously you'd want to change this for whatever your policies are, but they're all weighted. So, and what's kind of interesting about the Grade Center is that it not only weights everything, but if the student hasn't completed an assignment yet, it doesn't count that into the final grade. So they sort of see a running average for their grade, and that's confusing to some students because what I had the first time I used this, because it was a running average until I zeroed out their grade, until I went in and put a 0 for the grade when they didn't turn something in, it would show they had an A. But then once I put all their zeros in, it would show they have an F. And they would say, hey, how come I have an F? Because it said I had an A yesterday, and all of a sudden today says an F. Well, you didn't turn in all this work, so when it converted to a 0, that became an F. So what I do now is there's 2 different options for the average. So and you can kind of see if you hover over these, but you can also click the drop down to see where these averages are coming from. But I have it set up where I do both a running average and a regular average. So the regular one is where it just assumes anything not done yet is a 0. So then the students can see both. They can see what's my final grade right now, and what is my grade if if I've turned, what's my grade on what I've completed so far. So how am I doing in the class? And then finally, how is my grade if I didn't turn in any additional work? I could probably do a whole video on how to use just this grade center. It can do some pretty complicated stuff in there. Great thing about it though is the students can see their grades all the time. As soon as something is graded, it shows up in their grade center, and they always know exactly where they stand. And I think the students appreciate that. They like seeing all that stuff immediately. Especially this generation with instant access to everything. So again, that's the grade center. The last thing I was going to show you is what I do. So I don't do this for CompLit, but for most classes I teach online, instead of just having all this, right now I've got all the tests in one tab, all the assignments in another tab, all this stuff is in its own tab. What some instructors like to do, and again, I don't do this for in-person classes, but for online classes I do this, but you could certainly do this for something like CompLit. I create content areas for each week. So I might do week 1, and I may even put the date in here, right? So I could put, 5/1 for May 1st. So there's my week 1. And usually what I want to do is I want to separate the weeks from all this content. So what I'll do is I'll add a not a subheader. I'll add a divider. And then you can move that divider up. So maybe I want announcements and course information to be at the top. And then I'll do another divider. And then, so then I've got kind of all the extra stuff at the bottom. and then I would move week 1 right here. That way it's kind of separated, kind of stands out. Okay, here's my week 1 stuff. And then when they click on week 1, typically what I do is I create an item. So I might start with an overview. So here's my overview. And I say, this week we will be doing stuff. Plan to complete the Chapter 1 quiz. Sorry, I'm not a very good typist. Maybe read Chapter 1. Come to class. You know, all the stuff that you want them to do that week. Start Word Assignment 1. There we go. I'll make the nice little list out of that. And what I like to do is I like to highlight the action words, right? So they kind of brings attention to it. There we go. So when they log in, they know exactly what they're going to be doing this week. They say, okay, this is what I have to work on this week. This is where I should be this week. And then I'll add some links. So I already have all this content down here, but then I'll add a link to it from here. So I'll go in and do course link. So I know I'm going to want them to say, for example, I know I want them to work on the quiz 1. So I'll add a link for quiz number 1 and say, take this quiz. You have multiple attempts, you know, maybe just a few things about what it is, submit it. And now there's a link to the quiz. So if they click on that, it'll take them right to the quiz. And then I might add a link for the assignment that they're going to be working on, any supplementary materials. So if I bring things up in class, a lot of times I add that to this as I go. So if we talk about something in class, I say, hey, there's a neat website you can go to about this, or you know, whatever, or I give them some new assignment or an extra credit or whatever. You can see I have a little thing here for extra credit. I'll add things about extra credit. So that's all in here. So it's a nice place to keep everything. Like, you know, Professor Carlin mentioned that we have web study, but my problem with web study is it doesn't do half this stuff because we have the light version. If we had access to the full version of web study, it works fine. I use the full version of web study in some other classes that I've taught at Camden County. So I've taught some web development stuff in the CS department, and it was great. Web study, I mean, it did everything I needed it to do, but I don't have access to it for CompLit or any of the other classes that I teach. And just to kind of show you an example, I'll go back to my site. So here's another class that I'm teaching at Camden County this semester. And you can see here, oops, I left my Drexel logo on it when I imported it. But you can see this is what I do. So I have for each week, I've got all of the topics for each unit in the course. And then I've got, you can see I've got discussion questions that I post, that they go in and post stuff for the discussions every once in a while. You know, so week 1, when they clicked on week 1, this tells them what they have to do. They're going to be reading Chapter 1 and 2, they're reviewing Unit 1 lecture, participating in Unit 1 discussion board, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, and all of my lectures for this class I put on YouTube. So they come to class, we do the lecture together, and then I post it on YouTube. So kind of neat. But so if you have any questions about using Blackboard, I'm happy to chat with you. Just give me a ring or send me an email, and good luck, and I hope it's useful for you. Thank you.